All right, so tell me a little bit about yourself, and how you got started as a teacher. How did that come about?
Kind of by accident. Um, Short version is I actually went to school for broadcast journalism and creative writing, and I graduated in December of 2008, and there was a hiring freeze everywhere. So I didn't really have any job opportunities in broadcast. So I decided to go back to school in the fall for education. And I'm using my minor really for my career. So that kind of put me on that path. I did tutor at Kumon. I don't know if you're familiar with what Kumon is, but I did that when I was in high school. And so I kind of enjoyed that, which kind of led me on that path to make the decision to go into education.
Oh, that's nice. So what my next question is, tell me a little bit about the work that you do as a teacher at Woodinville High School.
So I teach English. This year I'm teaching English 11 and English 12 focus on voice. So pretty standard like novels analysis. My senior class is focused on speech and debate first semester and creative writing second semester. So it's a little bit different and kind of unique. I also coach the speech and debate team, and I've been doing that for 7 years, and they've been doing pretty well. So a lot of my focus for the first part of the year is generally like on that club, in addition to like just trying to teach day to day. So it's a lot of like time on the weekends that I spend with that group of kids.
hmm My next question is, tell me a little bit about your contributions to the greater Woodinville community. What have you been doing in those aspects?
Um, I don't know if there's anything specific aside from like making sure that for speech and debate, for example, like the parents and volunteers who help us with judging, because that's again a really large time commitment. A lot of them have to take time off of work or give up their Saturdays to help us out. Sometimes it's former students. A lot of time though, it's the kids' parents. And so I do my best to make sure that they feel appreciated for that. So I do like judge gifts for them every year. And then we have a volunteer recognition week where I make sure all of their names go into the weekly newsletter so that everyone sees that, all of these people are contributing their time to our club and helping us just improve.
hmm My next question is, how have those experiences, like both as a teacher and, with the speech and debate club and also the stuff that you're doing outside of the community, how have those experiences been like for you? Have they been rewarding? What have they been like basically?
Yeah, no, 100%. They're very rewarding. The juniors just wrote an essay on the Great Gatsby. And a lot of the ones that I read have been really, really strong essays, which doesn't always happen. So I'm really thrilled with the fact that they're figuring out how to write. And then with speech and debate, when we go to tournaments, this area is actually the most competitive in the state. And a lot of the schools here go to nationals, and we haven't gone to nationals because it's just me as the advisor. So that makes it hard time wise to, have that opportunity. And I mean, there's financials involved too, which makes it harder. But anytime they do well, anytime they win, it's just like the best feeling in the world to see the look on their face and how excited and happy they are, because it's a hard thing to compete in speech and debate. You've got a lot of people once you're moving through the rounds, like towards the end, there are a lot of people watching you. Maybe your parents are watching you, and they're able to stand up there and actually like get through all of their speeches and do a really good job. Like I took a girl to state this year for speech, and she came in 7th place, and she did really, really well. And she qualified in one tournament, which was also pretty cool. So she was just like over the moon, excited and happy. And that makes me feel good because then, I mean, I helped get her there to do that. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's a really rewarding job to have.
Yeah, and speech and debate, it's also pretty nerve-wracking because you're
Mhm.
prepping, like speeches. I've ran for class president myself in high school, so
Yeah.
I've really had that experience of like prepping for speeches and just kind of the idea of um presenting in front of an audience is so nerve-wracking. I
Mhm.
remember I would always get stage fright, like
Yeah.
how do I get through this? And just yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I could say with confidence, I mean, every year I feel this way when the seniors are done with my class. a lot of them do email me or contact me or come and visit, and they say that like the class just helped them be better speakers overall, and they didn't necessarily compete with speech and debate, but because the first semester focuses so much on that, they just felt like going into college, they had the presentation skills, and the stage fright was far less than it would have been if they hadn't taken it. So it's always nice to hear that that was actually helpful for them.
Mm-hmm. Which leans into my next question, like what testimonials have you heard from students and other people in the community, about your work, as a teacher, speech and debate prep, what have they said to you about, their experiences?
The main thing is that, like I just said, it has helped them just be better speakers. One of my former students said it really well. I always have the seniors come in junior classes to try and get them to consider signing up for that class, because a lot of students are afraid of it, and it makes sense. Like, they don't necessarily want to stand up and talk in front of their peers. It's not an easy thing to do. No matter who you are, it's not an easy thing to do. So I try and recruit early before registration. And one of my seniors came in and was like, yeah, I thought it was going to be really hard, but for one, everyone in the class kind of helps support you, because I try and foster that community where it's like, nobody should be making fun of anyone for a mistake. We don't talk about anyone's performance outside of class. You support everyone, because guess what? Tomorrow or next week, it's your turn. So if you're going to berate someone, then, well, that's going to come back on you if you're not prepared. So, I mean, all of that kind of goes into it, and that helps a lot. But she said that like it's best and easiest to learn in front of your peers, where you have time to make mistakes and have those errors occur before you have to go give a speech or do a presentation in front of like 300 people in a college class. And I was like, that says it really well, because that, I mean, if you haven't done any of that speaking and you haven't tried it, trying to stand up in front of 300 people and talk is going to be really hard.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. My last question, I guess, is what can other teachers, students of like debate class, people that you've, students in your class that you've taught, as a teacher, what can they sort of take away from this conversation? How can sort of the idea of like teaching, um, make the teachers feel represented in the educational realm? Because I think teaching, I think it's really rewarding and really a rewarding experience for everyone. I know a friend who is also an elementary school teacher, so I can relate to that. So I'm wondering what can people take away from this conversation? How can teachers be, like valued and represented? Because teaching is important.
yeah. I mean, it's like you see it on mugs and stuff all the time. Like, if you can read this, thank a teacher, which is completely accurate. Like, I think the one thing I would say is that the time, energy, and effort, it's worth it, even if it's just one student who says that you made a difference to them. That's all that like I need. That's all I need to be happy and feel rewarded in what I'm doing. I mean, I even thought about it, I was like, well, if I did have another career, what would it be? And I just can't imagine having anything else be my career. I can't imagine even going back and doing broadcast journalism at this point. I can't imagine sitting behind just a desk and pushing papers or analyzing data, or even being an editor or something along those lines, using my skills for that. Like, it just doesn't feel right. And just sometimes having the accountability from the kids helps me, because sometimes my ADHD gets in the way. So I get distracted by things, and they're like, have you graded this thing yet? And I'm like, okay, you're going to ask again in 2 days. So I better get on that and get it done. But yeah, the time, energy, the effort, all of that is rewarding in the end, even if it just helps one kid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.